Hi, I'm Mrs. McTaggart. In this video, we're going to do a quick recap of all the different types of questions you were asked about fourth level circles. Now, when I made these videos before, there's actually 6 different videos. There's circumference, so circumference of part circles. There's finding the diameter. Then there was area of part circles, and then finding the radius. So we're going to try and cover 6 different parts in one little video, all right? So you will need a calculator if you're following along with this, or you're doing any of this work. And remember, for all my examples, I use pi as 3.14 rather than the exact value. So let's have a look at some questions. So you have to remember these two formulas off by heart. Remember, you've got circumference, C equals pi d, and area equals pi r squared, all right? There is a little song of a man singing in a very kind of Bristol accent about circumference is pi times diameter. It's on YouTube, search it. It helps you remember the songs, as annoying as it is. Okay, so for this pink circle, I'm just going to show both stages. We're going to find the circumference, we're going to find the area. And the problem is remembering which formula to use. Circumference is the one with the diameter in it, and area is the one with the r squared. And a wee way of remembering it is at the end of area, you always write cm squared, don't you? So the one with the squared in it is the one for area. Remember it however you will. So on my circle here, we know the diameter is 14, and we know that makes the radius half of that, which is 7. Our first formula wants the diameter. So to do the circumference, we're simply doing 3.14 times 14. And when you do that in your calculator, you get 43.96. Now your circumference is just a length, like putting a bit of string around it, so your units are centimetres. When you're doing area, we still use pi as 3.14, but this one wants your radius. Now our radius is 7, and your radius is from the centre to the outside of the circle, so we're doing 7 squared. And the alternative way I mentioned about doing that when I taught it was you could write 3.14 times 7 times 7, or you could just type it in as 3.14 times, and remember you have a button somewhere on your calculator that says x squared. So when you type that in, you get 153.86. And if you're super clever and super keen, instead of just using the x squared button, you know 7 squared is 49. You could just type in 3.14 times 49. When it comes to calculating, that might be quicker. Now, area always has squared at the end, so this is square centimetres for our units. Okay. So then you start looking at things like half circles and quarter circles, and our working changes ever so slightly. I always think it's easier just to alter the formula rather than find the full circumference or area and then half it. It's in one less line of working. So this is a quarter circle. So a quarter, you put a quarter in front of the formula now, and it's up to you. Do you want to use a quarter, or do you want to use it as a decimal? As a decimal, a quarter would be 0.25. I can't quite fit that in, so I'm going to use a quarter. If it was a half, you'd use a half. If it was like a Pac-Man shape, like a 3/4 of a circle, you'd put in 3/4. Now, for the circumference, we need the diameter. So looking at the picture just now, this would be the centre of the circle. And if I drew this right out, the diameter would be double of 12, which is 24. So diameter is 24 and our radius is 12. So it's the radius that's been given on the picture here. So to get the circumference, we are going to do, I'm going to turn that quarter into a decimal when I type it in, and I'm going to do 0.25 times 3.14 times my diameter of 24. And then I'll go type that in, and we get an answer of 16.4208. So I'm going to round that to 16.42 centimetres to 2 decimal places. And then you'll see this extra bit added in, okay? I just wanted to recap perimeter as well. They'll ask you for perimeter when it's part circles and shapes. So perimeter is the distance right the way around. So at the moment, you'll see my blue line appearing. We've worked out that little bit there is 16.42. To get right back to the start, I need to add on 12, and I need to add on another 12. So the perimeter is 16.42 plus 12 plus 12. Or effectively, you're adding on 24 there, which gives us a perimeter of 40.42 centimetres. So remember, perimeter is adding up all the other sides, the sides that would take your journey to get back to the beginning. Right, let's do the area of the quarter circle now. So area equals a quarter is 0.25 times 3.14 times, now my radius is 12, so times 12 squared. So we have, when you type that in, you will get 113.04. So I'm not going to bother rounding that one. That is what we get there. It is still to 2 decimal places, so, but it's centimetres squared and it's to 2 dp. Okay, so remember, if that was a half circle, you would put a half in front and 0.5 and so on. You might also have that on top of another shape that you'll have it maybe an area of a rectangle to get, or you'll maybe have to add on the sides of the rectangle to get your perimeter as well. So just watch out. I've not covered any of those examples so on this recap video. Okay, and then we had the style of questions where you had to work backwards. So I've started with the formula for circumference because they've told us the circumference and we want the diameter. Now remember, your formula says circumference equals pi times diameter. So to get your diameter, you have to deal with this times by pi. The opposite times by pi is dividing by pi. So the formula becomes circumference divided by pi. And then we can stick our numbers in and that gives us 30 over 3.14. And when you type that in, you get a big long number. I'm going to round it. It's 9.554. So I'm just going to round that to either 9.55 or 9.6. I think for 1 decimal place will be okay. So 9.6 centimetres to 1 decimal place. So that is my diameter. And then we had the ones where I told you the area and I wanted the radius. So the formula started again as pi r squared. We needed to undo the timesing by pi. So you had area divided by pi. And then the opposite of squaring a thing was square rooting it. So we had that. So we had the square root of your area over pi. And that was your formula for radius. So then let's plug in our numbers. So our area was 78. We know pi is 3.14. And then we had to square root it. Now I always, just out of habit, did the 78 divided by 3.14 first. Got my answer and then square rooted that answer. I'll tell you another option in a second. So when I do that, it gives me 4.98. Well, that's really close to 5. I don't want to say exactly 5, so I'm going to leave it as 4.98 this time. Centimetres to 2 decimal places. I always hate the ones that are so close when it comes to rounding. Again, yeah, you could get away with 5.0 though when you round that to 1 decimal place. However, if they asked you for the diameter, you do know at the end, well, once you know the radius, you just double it to get the diameter, and so on. Okay? So, yeah, that's the end of that. Is recapped it all very, very briefly. The only style of questions I didn't show were like this. So if we had maybe this shape, and I'll just maybe just add this one in. So let's put on some numbers here. Let's put on 10 centimetres and 4 centimetres. Right, so let's start by asking for the perimeter of the shape. So to get the perimeter, the first thing I'm going to do is get that circumference of half a circle. So the circumference is half pi d, because it's only half a circle. So I would then do 0.5 times 3.14 times, now the diameter is 10 because opposite sides in rectangles are the same. So I would have that sum there. So I would have an answer of 15.7. And then the perimeter would be 15.7, and I'm just going to trace with a red line what I'm doing here. So here is my 15.7. I would then add on 4. I would then add on 10. And then I would add on 4 to get me back to where I was. So I'm effectively adding on 18 there to my answer, which makes my perimeter 33.7 centimetres. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the same picture and I'm going to ask for the area. So I'm going to start with a semicircle. So the area is half pi r squared. And that would be a half, or 0.5 I use, isn't it? So I would use 0.5 times 3.14 times my radius would be half of the 10, so I'd only be coming into the middle here. So my radius would be 5. So it would be a half times 3.14 times 5 squared, which is, oh I'm typing things in wrongly, here's my calculator, 39.25. So that is the area of the semicircle. The rectangle would be just length times breadth, so just 10 times 4, which is 40. And then that would give me a total area of 39.25 plus my 40, which is 79.25 square centimetres. So I added that wee extra one in as well, just in case. Okay, I hope this has helped. Remember, it is just a recap of all the stuff. I do have the videos of going into a lot more detail with these and a lot of extension stuff and more practice if you want to look them up. Thanks very much.